The deep space exploration vessel Dauntless moved through the void like a single spark in a vast cold ocean. Its steel hull shone faintly under the light of distant stars. Inside, the hum of the engines was steady, a soft vibration that made the whole ship feel alive. The crew had spent months in deep space. They had grown used to the silence outside, the endless black and the constant rhythm of their work. Dr. Evan Hale stood by the main observation window, a mug of warm liquid in his hands. His brown hair was slightly messy and his uniform collar was loose, showing he had been awake too long. He wasn't a soldier like many on the ship. He was a xenoanthropologist, a scientist who studied alien cultures. He loved his job, but after 6 months in the cold dark, even he missed home. The ship's AI voice broke the silence. Alert, unknown vessel detected near Sector 7. Evan turned. The bridge lights shifted to red. Crew members began rushing to their stations. Captain Leon strode in, tall and calm, her sharp eyes scanning the screens. Report, she ordered, small craft. No response to hails, the communications officer said. Drifting. Life signs detected. Weak. Evan set down his mug and stepped closer. His heart began to race. They hadn't seen another life form in weeks, and this was clearly not a human ship. The alien craft was small, damaged and slowly spinning in the darkness like a wounded animal. Tractor beam it in, Captain Leon said. Prepare medical bay. The alien craft was pulled into the hangar with soft, careful movements. Engineers rushed in wearing pressure suits. Inside the wreck, they found one survivor. Evan arrived at the med bay just as they brought her in. She was unlike anything he'd seen before. Her skin shimmered pale blue, almost silver under the lights. Her hair was white and flowed like silk underwater. Her eyes, large and shining, darted around the room in confusion and fear. She looked young, though age was hard to tell for another species. She's losing body heat fast, the medic said. Her biology is different. We can't regulate her temperature. She won't make it through the night, another voice said. Evan stepped closer. His training kicked in. He remembered old reports of species with imprinting instincts, creatures that bonded to whoever helped them first. He also remembered something else. Some alien races needed body warmth from another being to survive severe shock. Wait, he said quickly. Let me try something. He walked to the captain. We can use an emergency thermal pod, but her vitals might still crash. I read about a species from the Lyran system. Their physiology is similar. They survive trauma by direct warmth contact. If I stay with her, we might keep her alive. The captain hesitated. Are you sure you want to do this, Doctor? He nodded. If I don't, she dies tonight. Fine, but she stays under medical observation. She'll be monitored. They moved her to an isolated cabin with medical scanners attached to the walls. The ship's heating system couldn't match her body's needs. The medic adjusted the temperature, but her vitals kept dropping. Evan sat on the edge of the bunk, feeling nervous. She looked so fragile, curled up and shivering. Her breathing was fast and shallow. A nurse handed him a thermal blanket. He took a deep breath, then gently sat beside her. The bed felt cold, but her skin was colder, like touching ice. She flinched slightly when he came closer, but her wide silver eyes never left his face. It's okay, he whispered softly. We're trying to help you. She didn't understand the words, but she seemed to understand the tone. Slowly, he placed the blanket over both of them. The warmth from his body began to spread. At first, she trembled more, unsure. Then, like a wild creature deciding to trust, she inched closer. Within minutes, her breathing slowed. Her hands, delicate, three-fingered, gripped the fabric of his uniform tightly. Evan stayed still, letting her hold on. The AI above them announced, "Vital stabilizing." Evan exhaled. He didn't realize how tense he'd been until then. The hours passed slowly. Outside, the engines kept their steady hum. Inside, the alien girl's shivers faded. She seemed asleep, her head resting against his chest. Evan didn't dare move much. Any sudden shift might break the fragile trust. But even as he sat there in the dim cabin, his mind was full of questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she alone out there? He remembered the damaged ship. The engineers had reported blast marks. Someone had attacked her. She wasn't just lost, she was running from something. Around Oro 300 ship time, she stirred. Her eyes opened again, glowing faintly in the dark. She studied him, unblinking. There was something in that gaze. Not just fear now, but recognition. She touched her chest with a small hand, then touched his. Sarah, she whispered. The voice was soft, musical. Evan blinked. "Sarah, that's your name?" She nodded slowly. Then she repeated it. "Sarah." Evan smiled faintly. "I'm Evan." She struggled to say it. "Evan." The sound of his name in that strange, soft voice sent a chill through him. It felt like the start of something heavy, something he didn't understand yet. By morning, Sarah's vitals were normal. But there was a new problem. When the medics tried to move her to a separate recovery room, she refused. The moment Evan stood up, she grabbed his uniform and pulled. When they tried again, she let out a low, strange sound, not exactly a growl, but something instinctive, sharp, and protective. "She doesn't want to leave him," one of the nurses whispered. "It's imprinting," Evan said quietly. "Some species create a bond with whoever helps them survive. She thinks I'm important now, like a guardian?" "More like an anchor," he replied. "The one safe point in an unsafe world." Captain Leon entered the room, arms crossed. "Dr. Hale, explain." Evan told her everything he knew. Sarah's species wasn't fully documented, but there were reports of Lyran-type beings bonding after trauma. Usually the effect was temporary, but nobody had ever brought one aboard a human ship before. "She's attached to you," the captain said flatly, "and she might not let go." "I can handle it," Evan replied. "She trusts me. She better. Because if she panics in the wrong section of this ship, things could get dangerous fast." Over the next 2 days, Sarah's behavior became the talk of the crew. She followed Evan everywhere. If he went to the lab, she was right behind him. If he entered the mess hall, she sat beside him, silent and watchful. She didn't speak much, but she was alert. Her movements were graceful, almost liquid, and people couldn't help staring. Some crew members thought it was cute. Others were uncomfortable. "She's like a shadow," one engineer muttered. "She's scared," Evan said simply. "She needs to feel safe," but it was more than fear. Sometimes Evan caught her watching him not with fear, but with intense focus, like she was memorizing his every breath. She began copying small gestures, the way he drank from his mug, the way he tapped the table when thinking. It wasn't mockery. It was mimicry. Bonding. He started teaching her simple words. She learned fast. Yes. No. Ship. Evan. She liked saying his name most of all. But not everyone was happy. Commander Rourke, the head of security, called a private meeting. "She's not human," Rourke said, leaning across the table. "And she's attached to one of our officers like a pet. That's a security risk." "She's not a pet," Evan said calmly. "She's intelligent. More than you think. She won't leave your side. She's got control over some tech interfaces. She could be spying." Captain Leon raised a hand to calm them. "Enough. Evan, can she understand basic commands?" "She can learn," Evan said. "She's already learning." "Good, then teach her the rules. If this becomes a threat to the crew, we'll have to make hard choices." Evan nodded slowly. He understood. But deep down he also felt something else. A strange sense of responsibility. She had trusted him when she was dying. Now she wouldn't trust anyone else. Late that night, Evan returned to his cabin. Sarah was already sitting inside, cross-legged on the bunk, her silver eyes fixed on the door. She tilted her head slightly as he entered. "You shouldn't be here," he said gently. "This is my room." She shook her head. "Evan, room. Safe," he sighed. "You're not supposed to follow me everywhere." She touched the side of her head, then his chest. "Bond. Anchor." Her words were broken, but the meaning was clear. "You think I'm your anchor?" he whispered. She nodded again. Then slowly she leaned against his shoulder. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't dangerous. It was trust, and pure, simple, and heavy. He let out a long breath and sat down. Outside, the stars drifted past like silent witnesses. Inside, two beings from different worlds sat side by side, their lives already tangled in ways neither of them could fully understand. Evan didn't know it yet. But this bond, unforged in the cold dark of space, was about to change everything. At first, most of the crew tried to stay away from her. She was an unknown alien, quiet and intense, always walking a step behind Evan like a silent guardian. But soon she became impossible to ignore. She moved through the halls like she belonged there, her glowing silver eyes catching the low lights of the ship. Evan tried to keep their daily routine calm. Mornings were spent in the language lab, where Sarah learned simple English words. Afternoons, she sat with him in the observation deck staring at the stars. She didn't ask questions, but her gaze was sharp. She watched everything. The crew, the machines, the stars outside. She was learning fast. The crew had mixed feelings. Some liked her quiet presence. Others saw her as a problem. The security team, especially Commander Rourke, saw a threat. "She's too close to you," Rourke said during one of their private meetings. "She doesn't listen to anyone else." "She's learning," Evan answered. "She trusts me." "That's not dangerous," Rourke crossed his arms. "Trust is not the same as control. If something happens and she doesn't follow orders, what then?" Evan had no answer. Deep down, he knew Rourke had a point. Sarah didn't trust anyone else on the ship. Not yet. One evening, the alert sirens rang out, cutting through the calm like a blade. Red lights flashed along the walls. The intercom crackled. "Attention all crew. Unidentified fleet detected. Battle stations." Evan jumped from his seat in the lab. Sarah stood instantly, her body tense like a drawn bow. The captain's voice followed. "Unknown vessels on approach vector. Shields up. Secure all stations." Evan rushed to the nearest console. On the screen, he saw 5 ships moving toward the Dauntless. They were fast and sharp like black arrows against the stars. "Who are they?" he asked the officer on duty. "Not human," the officer replied. Same signature as Sarah's craft. Evan's heart skipped. "Then they're her people." The bridge was alive with movement. Officers worked at their stations, voices sharp and controlled. Captain Leon stood at the center like a stone in a storm. Evan arrived with Sarah close behind. The moment the alien ships appeared on the main screen, Sarah's breathing changed. Her eyes widened. She whispered something in her language. Soft, fast, afraid. "They're demanding we hand over the survivor," the communications officer said. The captain's voice was steady. "What else?" No response to anything else. "Just return the subject." No negotiation. Evan turned to Sarah. "They want you back," he said softly. She shook her head quickly. No, go back." "You know them," he said, her hands clenched tightly. "Danger," she whispered. Bad. The alien fleet did not attack right away. Instead, they surrounded the Dauntless, holding their position. The crew called it a standoff. Rourke approached Evan outside the bridge. "This is what I was afraid of. She's brought trouble." "She didn't ask to be rescued," Evan said. "Doesn't matter," Rourke replied. "If they attack, we can't hold out long. You better get answers from her." Evan knew he was right. He went to Sarah's cabin, now shared with him since she refused to sleep alone. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at the wall, her glowing eyes distant. When he entered, she looked up immediately like she'd been waiting. "Sarah," he said gently, kneeling in front of her. "Those ships outside, they're your people?" She looked away. Her hands trembled. "Who are they?" He pressed softly. She whispered a single word. "Vera," he repeated it. "Vera," she nodded, then added slowly. "Vera. Rule, control, all, I not want." Her voice shook. "Run." Evan realized the truth. She wasn't a soldier. She was a fugitive. She had escaped something. Maybe a military or royal structure. "They want you back," he said. "Why?" She touched her neck where faint scars ran like thin white lines. "Bond, Vera no bond. Vera control." Evan understood then. Her people saw her as property, not a person. But she had imprinted on him, chosen freely. That alone might be a crime in their world. Captain Leon called a meeting in the briefing room. Rourke was there. Evan and Sarah joined them. She stayed close to him, silent but alert. The captain spoke first. "Their commander says Sarah is Vera property. They want her returned immediately." "She's not property," Evan said firmly. "She's a person." Rourke raised an eyebrow. "Maybe to us. But to them?" Leon's eyes narrowed. "If we hand her over, they'll leave us alone. If we don't, this could start a war." Evan's chest tightened. "You can't send her back. She's terrified of them." "She's not human," Rourke said. "And our first responsibility is the crew." "She saved no one," Evan snapped. "But she trusted us. That means something." Captain Leon stayed silent for a long moment. Finally, she said, "We'll stall for time. But Evan, you need to prepare. If this gets worse, we may not have a choice." That night, Sarah didn't sleep. Neither did Evan. She sat at the edge of the bunk, knees pulled to her chest. "Evan," she whispered. He turned to look at her. "I stay." "Here. With you," she said, each word careful. "No Vera," he sighed. "It's not that simple." She tilted her head, confused. Simple. You. Safe. Me. Safe. Anchor. Evan's heart ached. She saw things so clearly. He wished the universe was that simple too. Outside the ship, the alien fleet still floated like sharks in deep water, silent, but deadly. The next day, something unexpected happened. Sarah disappeared. Evan woke up and found the room empty. He ran through the corridor, panic rising in his chest. "Sarah!" he called. Crew members stared at him, confused. He found her in the engine control room. The security team was already there, surrounding her. Commander Rourke stood with his hand near his weapon. "She hacked into the environmental controls," Rourke said coldly. "She rerouted half our security doors." "She doesn't know what she's doing," Evan said quickly, stepping forward. "She knows exactly what she's doing," Rourke replied. "She's trying to protect herself." Sarah looked at Evan as soon as he entered. "Evan," she whispered, voice small but clear. "Come here," he said softly. "It's okay." Slowly, she stepped away from the console and toward him. The security team lowered their weapons, but Rourke didn't look convinced. "You see?" Evan said quietly. "She trusts me." "She wasn't attacking the ship." Rourke stared at them. "One day that trust won't be enough." Hours later, the alien fleet moved closer. Their commander finally sent a face-to-face transmission. The screen on the bridge lit up with the image of a tall, thin alien with glowing eyes like Sarah's but cold and sharp. His armor shone like glass. His voice was calm, but it carried a threat. "Return the lost one," he said. "She belongs to the Vera, if you do not. We will take her." Captain Leon stood tall. "She's a living being. She has chosen to stay." "Choice?" the alien commander said. "She has no choice. She is Vera." Sarah stood beside Evan on the bridge. When the commander saw her, his eyes narrowed. "You bonded with a human," he said. "Unacceptable. You shame your kind." Sarah's hands shook, but she stepped forward anyway. Her voice rose. "No shame. My choice." The alien commander's voice turned cold as ice. "Then you will die with them." The transmission ended. The Dauntless was now fully at battle stations. Shields were raised. Weapons were armed. The crew was tense. Captain Leon turned to Evan. "They're going to attack." He looked at Sarah. She was trembling but standing firm. Her people were coming to take her by force. She was terrified, but she stayed by his side. "Sarah," he said softly, "you can leave if you want. We can send you in a pod." She shook her head hard. "No leave." With Evan, he didn't know whether to feel touched or afraid. The first attack came fast. Energy blasts struck the shields, making the whole ship shake. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. The crew rushed to their posts. Sarah closed her eyes. The moment the energy touched the ship, she reacted. Her skin glowed faintly, and she moved to the nearest console. Her long fingers danced over the controls like she'd done it 1,000 times. "What is she doing?" Rourke shouted. "She understands their systems," Evan said. "She can help." Sarah worked quickly, bypassing alien signals, intercepting attack patterns. She sent data straight to the defense team. Suddenly, the Dauntless began dodging more effectively, its shields holding longer. "She's helping us," the helmsman said in awe. Rourke's face hardened, but he said nothing. When the first wave ended, the alien fleet pulled back. Captain Leon stood at the command station. "We bought ourselves time," she said. "But this isn't over." Evan looked at Sarah. She was breathing hard, tired but steady. She looked up at him, her eyes fierce. "Evan's safe," she whispered. "All safe." For the first time, the crew didn't just see her as a strange alien girl. They saw her as one of them, but the captain knew this was just the beginning. The Vera wouldn't stop. The bond between a human and one of their own was something they wouldn't forgive, and Sarah was now the center of a storm bigger than any of them had imagined. The battle with the Vera fleet had left the Dauntless bruised but alive. Inside the ship, alarms still blinked red, panels sparked, and corridors smelled faintly of smoke. But the crew was still on their feet. They had survived the first strike. In the center of the bridge, Captain Leon stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes were sharp but calm, like a commander who had walked through fire before. Around her, officers worked quickly, patching systems, rerouting power, and scanning the enemy fleet. Evan stood beside Sarah. She was breathing heavily, sweat glistening on her silver-blue skin. Her glow was dimmer than before. She had used too much energy helping defend the ship. "You should rest," he whispered to her. She shook her head firmly. No, stay. The captain turned to face them. She did good work, she said. We would have been dust if not for her. Commander Rourke crossed his arms. She also put us here in the first place. Captain Leon didn't answer him. She stared at the large screen showing the alien ship still hovering nearby like wolves circling their prey. They're waiting for something, she murmured. They're regrouping, Rourke said. They'll come again. An uneasy silence settled over the ship. The Vera fleet had paused their attack, but their message was clear. Surrender the girl, or face destruction. Evan followed Sarah back to the small medical room where she had first recovered. She sat on the bunk, hugging her knees to her chest like she had on the first night. But this time her eyes were different. No fear. Only a hard, determined light. They won't stop, will they? Evan said softly. She shook her head. Vera, no stop. Vera, take. He sat down beside her. Why are they after you? Tell me everything. She hesitated, her voice quiet. Vera no like bond with others. Bond only Vera. I run. They hunt. Why? He asked again. Because, she whispered, touching the scars on her neck. I was made to lead. They want control. I want free. Evan stared at her. She wasn't just some refugee. She was someone important. Someone the Vera leadership could not afford to lose. An emergency meeting was called in the war room. The captain, Rourke, Evan, and Sarah sat around the glowing table. Captain Leon began, We can't outgun them. If they attack at full power, the Dauntless won't hold. Rourke added coldly, We can hand her over. They leave and we survive. Evan slammed his hands on the table. No, she trusted us. We can't send her back to be a prisoner. She's not human, Rourke said sharply. She's alive, Evan shot back, and she made her choice. The room fell silent. Sarah sat quietly watching them. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but clear. If I go, they kill many. If I stay, they kill too. Evan turned to her. We'll find another way. But she shook her head. Only one way. I fight, Rourke frowned. Fight with what? She's one person. Captain Leon tilted her head. Maybe that's all we need. Hours passed like slow drops of water. The crew prepared for the final confrontation. Fighters were armed. Shield generators were reinforced. Every soldier and technician knew the stakes. Evan spent the time with Sarah. He tried to make her rest, but she refused. She walked through the ship, memorizing the halls like they were her own. The crew moved out of her way. She wasn't just the quiet alien anymore. She was part of their fight. Evan, she said quietly when they stopped at the observation deck. Yes? You safe? I keep you safe, his chest tightened. You don't have to protect me, Sarah. She looked at him with those glowing silver eyes. Anchor, she said simply. I protect Anchor. He didn't know how to respond. So he just nodded. The alien fleet made their move at dawn ship time. A bright flash outside the window lit the entire corridor. Sirens blared once more. The second attack had begun. All stations. Shields at maximum. Enemy ships charging main weapons. Brace for impact. The ship shook violently as energy blasts slammed against the shields. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Crew members shouted over the noise. The Dauntless answered with its own weapons, but the Vera ships were faster, stronger, sharper. Evan stumbled to the bridge. Sarah followed close behind, moving like a hunter among chaos. Captain Leon barked orders while the helmsman tried to keep the ship in one piece. They're targeting the engines. Someone shouted, We can't take much more of this. Rourke yelled. Then everything changed. Sarah walked to the main console and placed her hand on the glowing interface. Instantly, the system lit up with alien code. The crew froze. She was connecting to their network again, but deeper this time. Sarah, what are you doing? Evan shouted. She didn't look at him. Ending. On the enemy flagship, alarms must have gone off because their formation suddenly shifted. Sarah had reached them. She was inside their communication network. She's overriding their command structure, the communications officer said in disbelief. She's taking control. Her voice grew calm, almost cold. They listen to leaders. I was leader. They obey. Evan's heart pounded. Sarah had been born to lead them. That was why they wanted her back, but now, she was turning their power against them. The alien commander's face flashed on the screen. His expression was full of rage. Traitor, he hissed. You shame your blood. Sarah looked at him, eyes glowing brighter than ever. No shame, choice, he sneered. You choose death. But before he could give the order, Sarah's fingers moved like lightning across the controls. The enemy flagship's systems flickered. One by one, the smaller ships fell out of formation. Confusion spread through the fleet like a wave. "They're losing coordination," Rourke said, shocked. "She's turning their own command net against them," Captain Leon whispered. The alien commander roared through the speakers. "We will destroy you all!" Sarah stood tall. "No, you obey me," and then... They did. On the radar, 2 of the Vera ships powered down their weapons. A third turned its guns away from the Dauntless. Sarah was forcing them to listen. She was no longer a scared fugitive. She was their leader. The commander on the flagship tried to resist. "They will never follow you. You bonded with a human." Her voice was steady. "I bonded with freedom." Evan felt a shiver run down his spine. The bridge was silent. Everyone watching this strange, fierce alien girl take control of a fleet that had come to destroy them. But the commander wasn't finished. He triggered a self-destruct code on the flagship. Warning lights flashed on every screen. If the flagship exploded, it would take the Dauntless with it. "Sarah," Evan shouted. "They're going to blow themselves up." Her eyes narrowed. "Not if I stop them." She closed her eyes, her hands gripping the console tighter. Her glow grew brighter, flooding the bridge with silver light. Code and symbols streamed across the screen faster than human eyes could follow. She was fighting him mind to mind, leader to leader through the network. The ship trembled again as another wave of energy surged outside. The countdown reached 10, 9, 8. "Come on, Sarah," Evan whispered. Her voice came out through the ship's speakers, soft but powerful. "Obey." And just like that, the countdown froze at 3. On the enemy flagship, systems went dark. The commander's image flickered and disappeared. "She did it," Rourke said, stunned. The Vera fleet went silent. No more attacks. No more threats. Just quiet. The battle was over. In the hours that followed, the Dauntless moved carefully through the wreckage of space, surrounded by now powerless alien ships. Some of them had surrendered. Others simply drifted. Sarah had broken the chain that held them together. Evan found her in the observation deck again. She stood alone, her silver eyes fixed on the stars. She looked tired but peaceful. "You saved us," he said quietly. She shook her head. "We saved." He smiled a little. "You didn't have to do it," she turned to him. "Yes, I did." "You anchor." "But more than anchor." "Crew," he stepped closer. "What will happen now?" "With your people?" She was silent for a long time. "Some follow me. Some hate me. But they see choice now. They cannot unsee." Captain Leon made her decision. "We'll take the surrendered ships and bring them back to human space. Let the diplomats sort out what comes next. But what's clear," she said, looking at Sarah, "is that this girl saved us all." Even Rourke, usually the hardest man on the ship, didn't argue. He simply nodded once in silent respect. Word spread quickly through the crew. They didn't see Sarah as a threat anymore. They saw her as a hero. Some smiled when they saw her in the halls. Others nodded in quiet thanks. She never asked for it. She just stayed close to Evan, walking through the ship like it had become her new home. One night, when the stars outside burned quiet and clear, Evan and Sarah sat side by side on the deck again. "You can go with your people," he said softly. "Lead them. Be their future." She looked at him for a long time, then shook her head. "I lead on from here," he blinked. "Here," she nodded. "Vera." "Learn human. Learn Vera, no war. Start peace," Evan exhaled slowly. She wasn't just staying because of the bond. She was choosing this path. "You've changed everything," he whispered. She tilted her head with a small, soft smile. "You too." Weeks later, the Dauntless returned to human space with an alien fleet in tow. Not as prisoners, but as allies under Sarah's leadership. Her story spread fast across the colonies. A single act of kindness, one shared bunk, one moment of trust, had started a new chapter between species. Sarah still followed Evan around the ship. That would probably never change. But now the crew didn't roll their eyes or whisper. They saluted her. They respected her.